Welcome to the SaltPod podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things SaltCON. I am your host, Douglas Stewart, and with me is...
Nathan Howard.
Welcome.
Yes.
So SaltCON is the largest board game convention in Utah. There are currently 5 events hosted by the SaltCON organizers each year, and in this episode, Nathan and I are going to talk a little bit about the 4 different ways in which you can buy and sell games during a SaltCON event.
And so these happen at all of the main events. The only exception is SaltCON Bryce, where there is no exchange or swap at that area.
Correct.
At that convention.
Yep.
But the spring, summer, end of summer, all of those will have an opportunity to trade, sell, buy games. Not necessarily in chronological order, but kind of a chronological order in the opportunities that they are produced.
Yeah, correct. So first and foremost, I guess would be the math trade, right?
Yes.
Because you're going to want to get in on that as soon as possible. If you intend on participating in the math trade, that's something you're going to do almost extensively, as I understand it, almost extensively before the convention takes place.
Yes.
And really, the convention is just kind of the place where you're going to go drop off and pick up your games.
Yeah. And one of the few that you actually don't have to have a SaltCON ticket for it.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
You could actually participate in the math trade, the no-ship math trade.
Okay, nice.
And you could have somebody else pick up your games for you. You don't necessarily have to be there, but yeah, the trade actually happens in the vendor hall. Usually, there's a shelving that's placed in the back of the vendor hall where games will be stored. But yeah, this happens usually weeks ahead. So you'll have to look on the Facebook page of SaltCON, and there will be a post that is saying, "Hey, here is the no ship math trade," and you will go in. You have to have a BGG account, and then you will create a list of games that you are wanting to trade, or sell.
Right.
Well, I guess no. In this part, you're just trading.
Yeah, it's just trade, right?
This is just a trade.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, right?
So I have XYZ games, and I am offering them up. Then after that deadline comes to a close, everybody who had their games put in there will then have the opportunity to go through and say, okay,
these are the ones I want.
Yes, yeah, and you pick out of that list of games, I would like this one, this one, this one, and you're going to give a list of priority of games that you want.
First pick would be this one, second pick. As I understand it, as it goes down the priority, the way the algorithm works, you might not get your first priority pick, but if it can only get you your third pick.
Yeah, and it tries to balance those out.
Yeah, it balances all that out.
Once your want list is keyed into BGG, then that deadline will come, start the algorithm, and then presto changeo, magic happens. And the algorithm will match up. Say Andy wants this game from Doug, and Nathan wants this game from Andy, and Doug wants this game from Andy.
Nathan.
Yeah.
You got to complete the circle.
Got to complete the loop. Yeah. And so then it will match up all those, and then it will notify the individual. Say, okay, you have swapped your game, put Andy's name on it, Doug's name on it, or Nathan's name on it, and then you'll place it on the shelf, or you'll just go back and check periodically to make sure that your game shows up. And then once your game's there, you just grab your game
and go.
And that's it.
Yeah. This is something maybe you could, a question that I have that maybe you could answer. Is there sort of a little grace period where you could back out? If you put all that information in, you selected your priorities, they run the algorithm, you see what you've got to give, you see what you're going to get. Is there kind of a little time period there where you can be nah, I don't like this trade, so I'm out?
No, as far as I understand, I also have not done the math trade, but I think once you submit your trade list,
You're committed.
Okay. These are games I'm offering, because that trade is not necessarily up to you. The algorithm's going to figure out that trade.
Right.
And so what you're saying is, I have these games I want, and I have these games I'm trading. I'm willing to trade these games while I'm looking for these games. And so you have to have somebody that wants one of your games, because if nobody wants your game, then you're not going to get anything, right? If you're not giving anything, you're not going to get anything. And so it's all, the algorithm figures all that out. If I take person A, goes to B, to C, to D, to E.
Right, it just sort of exchanges things internally a bajillion times until everyone gets what they want.
Right, yeah. So you can't see that I'm offering my copy of Firefly and I'm getting apples to apples, right? I mean, normally you would say that's not a fair trade,
It's not
right?
a good trade. But I guess if you agreed to it, that's what you'd get.
Yeah, but
Cool.
and if that's what you wanted, if you wanted apples to apples, and you're getting rid of Firefly, then yeah, that's a fair trade.
Yeah. We're not the experts, but hey, this is something I actually would really like to try sometime.
Yeah, I went through and was looking through the list and was watching games get added in for spring. I didn't participate, so maybe for summer's probably going to be here way too quick for me to get my stuff all figured out. But maybe by end of summer, I will participate in the math trade in end of summer and be able to report more clearly.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an awesome option. I know a lot of places do that, so I'm really glad they offer that math trade option.
And it's great because it is the no ship. You don't have to pay any shipping.
Yep.
Just
bring your game and pick up your game.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it's great. So then the second option is the virtual flea market. And so that is, again, this is happening on BGG. And again, you do not necessarily need a SaltCON ticket to participate in the virtual trade, the virtual market. What you're going to do is if your games didn't go out in the math trade, well, you already have that list. You can put that list on the next link that will be posted on the SaltCON Facebook page for the virtual market. So you list the games that you have that you want to sell. You list the price that you want to sell them for.
Yep.
And then that list is released to the ether, and everybody gets the chance to say, hey, you know what? I want to buy that game at this price. And they'll message you, and then you'll make your payment agreements, and then you make your meetup agreements. There is no designated place for this trade to happen. You have to make those arrangements.
Yeah, because the math trade, actually, they have like shelves, right? Like there's a place where you can go kind of exchange all that. The virtual is all on a person-to-person basis.
Yes.
But it's a much more straightforward thing. It's just like you put your stuff up for sale, you agree on a price and a time to meet, and you make it happen.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
And so that can be within the convention itself. It could be at the entrance of the convention. It could be at the McDonald's that's nearby. It could be wherever that trade is agreed upon. And again, so you don't need a SaltCON ticket for this, but it's nice because then you're there and you can play some games too.
Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
That's the point, right?
Absolutely. That's the point.
Excellent. And then, okay, so the third option is, of course, just the game swap.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of people spend a lot of time at the convention down in that room milling about trying to find a great deal on a great game.
Yes, yeah.
And this is also where a lot of people, like, of all of the ways to trade games at the convention, I think this is the one that can cause some people more consternation than other methods.
Absolutely. Especially if it's your first time.
Yeah.
First timers stress about this a lot.
So we definitely have some tips and tricks for navigating this swap room, because it is a very excellent way to go in and sell games. It's also a great way to go in and pick up some great deals. It really is. I love the swap room, and I love that this is an option that they offer. The SaltCON, organizers, they do a great job at making sure somebody's always in the room. I think they do everything they can to make sure that everything is on the up and up with the game swap. However, it is a room full of shelves, full of people's games, and it's everyone kind of looking through and rummaging. And I think there are definitely some ways to do this right and some ways to do it wrong.
Yeah, you have to understand there is an inherent risk to doing this.
100%.
I've been putting games in the game swap for 6-7 years now. I can say I have only ever lost. Well, I lost a game this last time, and I lost a game years before, but that does not necessarily mean that somebody walked away with it. Again, some disclaimers. If you leave the convention, so I usually stay through the Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
I have work on Monday, so I need a day to
recover.
Yeah. I need a day to recover from my days of recovery.
Recover from your vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
And as such, on Saturday, I go through and try to pick up all my games.
Yep.
And I go in, and sometimes I bring in upwards of 40 to 50 games. And one of my biggest pet peeves is that people will go in, you pick up a game, and they hold on to that game. They walk around
the room with it.
and then they don't put it back. And so at the end of the day, at the end of the convention, or whenever you're going to be there, you're walking around that room 3-4 times trying to find all your games. So tip number 1, make a list of your games. So
Vital.
I make a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I cannot stress the importance of making that list.
Yeah. If you don't remember what you brought, good luck packing it back out.
Yeah. I think I had this. Did I have this?
I don't
Where
know.
did I? Yeah.
Did I sell that one? I don't know. What happened to it?
Yeah.
Yep. Make a spreadsheet. And as you sell stuff, check it off the list.
Yes. Cannot stress that enough. Tip number 2, I would print your tag.
Yeah.
They make easy peel removable labels that you can print and stick on there. I've ordered some label sheets. So in summer, I am going to be putting those stickers on there because I saw somebody who did it last spring, and I thought, man, that's amazing.
That's genius. Yeah, that's great. I'll be curious to see how that works for you. I might have to copy you on that.
Yeah.
Because I make a little tag, but I go through and I just cut them out with scissors.
Yep.
and then tape it to the box, which is one of my little side tips, which is don't use annoying tape that's going to ruin the box when you attach those. If you do, just use like painter's tape. Works really good.
Works
that blue
amazing.
Painter's tape is awesome.
Yeah, but just don't use a ton of it so you're covering everything on the box.
Correct.
Put a little QR code for my Venmo account, put my name, my number on there, and so all that information is there. It makes it quick and easy so that people aren't wondering whose game this is. There's Post-its there that they have that you can totally put on your game, but those Post-its fall off.
They fall off so easy. Yeah.
You gotta have those labels made ahead of time.
Yep.
Because there's and SaltCON has put a stop to it this coming up in spring, or this coming up in summer, that they will not permit you to sit on the floor and write out your tags while you're there. When you put games in there, they already have to have the tags on them before you put them on the shelf, and that has to be done by you before it goes into the room.
It makes sense. It's too busy and
sense.
too congested in there for people to be doing all that paperwork.
Yeah.
One of our other tips, and this was something you did this last go around, and I was like, man, why didn't I do that? If you're selling a game and it's still in shrink, you don't have this problem. But if it's opened, you really don't want people rummaging through stuff, or just risking somebody picking it up, having the lid come off and your stuff spilling everywhere.
Yeah.
So while you've got that painter's tape out, throw a few pieces around the box so that the lid stays closed tight onto the box.
Yeah. When you're shipping it, when you're taking it back and forth, I put my games in big tubs and I put them on their edge so that I can fit more in the tub. Or I'm sure you could probably fit the same amount if I stack them up, but it makes sense to me to put them on their edge. But when you tape them closed, all that stuff stays inside. I've taken games out and just been really frustrated that somebody opened it up and went through everything. Be respectful of the current owner of the game.
Right.
If the box is open, I mean, you can take a peek inside, sure, but put everything back the way it was intended to be. Not the way you found it, the way it was intended to be. If you open it up and cards are scattered all over.
Yeah, clean it up. Be respectful. That's for sure.
And I think that's probably just the big thing is if everybody's got to be respectful of others people's stuff. I mean, I already stressed my biggest pet peeve, picking up a game and moving it somewhere else. Because, when somebody comes back and they're trying to find their games. Yeah,
so like you said, I think there's some inherent risk with taking your games to sell. It is possible that they walk off or something happens to them. I don't think that all of it's malicious. We've both talked to people. I think in particular, there was one gentleman at the last convention that we talked to who really had some strong opinions about people's malicious intent with the game swap and stuff. And I just don't agree. Maybe you've got a bad actor in there once in a while, but for the most part, I think everybody's on the up and up. I'm sure that a game walks off on accident once in a blue moon and something gets destroyed or broken once in a blue moon. There are definitely people who are not respectful about putting stuff back where they found it. And I think rummaging through the boxes a little bit, I think that's maybe a little bit more prevalent, but even that I don't think is too bad.
Yeah.
So, but if you're willing to take that risk, I think it's a great way to sell your games. And then of course, other thing that you should know about it is that if any games that are left over when the swap is done, get donated to the SaltCON library.
If it doesn't fit in the library, SaltCON actually donates it to libraries or high schools that have gaming clubs. Sometimes there's games that I really wanted to sell, and there's games that I really just don't want to take back home.
For sure. I've done that before too. I've definitely taken games there put a price tag on them. It's like, if this sells, great, and if not, I'm leaving it there and they can take care of it.
Yeah, SaltCON doesn't necessarily appreciate that.
No,
but
I'm sure not.
They have figured out a way to manage that. We had a post coordinators meeting afterwards, and the number of games that were left and from spring were upwards of 300 games.
Holy smokes! Really?
Yeah. Of those 300 games, if it's something that they feel they can fit into the library, great. Otherwise, they donate it to these high school gaming clubs.
That's crazy.
So I think that's really awesome. It's a great way for SaltCON to donate those.
Yeah.
It is a pain to deal with that. I think they had like 12 tubs of games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. They're not a donation service.
No.
It's just what happens to the stuff that gets left over.
Yeah, so if it's something you care about,
take it back with you.
Take it back with you.
Yeah.
And if it's something you don't care about, take it back with you. There's plenty of thrift stores that will gladly accept those donations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to rely just on SaltCON to deal with your unwanted games.
For sure.
So just to be clear, SaltCON does have 4 set rules for the game swap. There's no space on the floor. Do not stack games on the floor. The aisleway has to be kept clear. This is for fire code, ADA code. Plain makes sense, right?
And also
nothing can be a tripping
to
hazard.
annoy the tar out of other people.
Yeah. So that is rule number 1. Rule number
rule.
2 is do not take games out of the game swap area unless it is paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're making a transaction and you don't have cell service in the room, whatever, it's a big cement building, that happens. A table of holding that is sitting right there. You can stack your games. There's volunteers that will watch your stack of games while you go out and you make your Venmo payment, your PayPal payment, or you find the individual to make a cash exchange, come back and then take those games there. So rule number 2, do not take the games out of the room unless they are completely paid for. Now, spring, they did have an issue. Venmo had an issue.
Yeah, Venmo went just
down.
happened to go down right as that swap was getting rolling.
Yeah, and so that was a big issue, and a lot of people were really fuming mad at that, and none of that was under SaltCON's control, right? I mean, that was a Venmo issue.
Venmo issue, yeah.
All those games should not leave the room unless the payment has been verified. Rule number 3, to keep this swap open, SaltCON requires that you pay a revenue tax of 3% sales revenue tax that SaltCON collect, because SaltCON has an estimated amount that they must pay to Layton City as part of a business expense because they offer this swap. So if people aren't doing this, eventually SaltCON's just going to say,
we can't do it anymore.
We can't do it anymore because it's become too much of a liability to us.
So Nathan, that brings up the natural question, which is, how do you go about paying that 3%?
It's really simple. There's a big sign on the door. Well, not a big sign, but there is a sign on the door that has a QR code that's for Venmo or PayPal, and you just, at the end of the con, you can just snap a picture of that and send your 3% to SaltCON via a quick Venmo or PayPal payment.
And does that come at the seller's expense or the buyer's expense?
That comes at the seller's expense because you're selling the game. And so the buyers, that's...
yes.
That's
this is a common mistake that very many people make. They subtract from the total, like if the game says, I want, $25, they subtract the 3% when they give that money to the seller.
Yeah.
Like as though that's how they're, paying that 3% or making up for that. There's also some weird Venmo settings and stuff where some of that tax gets automatically added. Just pay for what the board game says.
Yes.
And then the seller at the end of the convention or throughout, depending on how they want to do it, they can tally up what they've sold and they can go scan that code and pay their 3%. But that is the seller that should take care of that, not the buyer. Don't do funny math with people and rip people off.
Yeah. And for all that's holy on this earth, just do friends and family.
Yeah, seriously. There is no need to do all those settings that automatically take money and everything else. It gets complicated and stupid. If the game says $50, just pay the $50, or whatever you've negotiated.
You're getting a good deal.
Yeah. If you've negotiated, if you've texted them and said, hey, would you do 40 for it? Just do 40. There is no need to get fancy or anything else, but sellers need to remember to pay that 3%.
For sure.
Or the swap will get shut down.
Yep. And then the fourth rule, which we've already talked about, that games that are left are considered donations and will be donated.
Excellent.
All right, so what's the final option, Doug?
Well, the final option is, of course, the flea market, which I think is kind of, it's one of my favorite things that they do every SaltCon. I think it's kind of cool. It's the Saturday morning.
Yep.
So at the Davis Convention Center, they have kind of an atrium area that they clear out. They kind of kick the gamers out for a little bit, and then everybody can bring their games in. Some people bring their games in special just for this, and some people will go retrieve their games from the swap room. You can do it however you want, but basically you can set up out on the tables, and for, I believe it's 2 hours.
2 hours, yep.
Basically, you're right there in the atrium, kind of in the main flow of everything that's going on, and people can come and peruse, and you can kind of stand by your games and do a little haggling, maybe a little bartering, possibly even some trading, whatever you want to do. But you've just got your games there, directly Venmo the sellers, or if you're the seller, you're just kind of there by your games and wheeling and dealing with people. It's a simple, easy way to sell games.
There's no chasing somebody by text, and there's no waiting, did that go through? It's all face-to-face and done right there. And like you said, I think that's probably the best way to do it. But if I'm going to be honest, probably the best deals that you're going to find are that first day in the game swap.
Yes, I totally agree. Those are the best deals. Okay, this is a little bit of a side tangent. Some people like the bartering, the haggling just a little bit. Some people definitely do not.
I'm on the do not.
Yeah,
phase.
you are. I see. I don't mind it as much. It doesn't bother me quite as much as it bothers you. However, I think if you do like that, if you do like the bartering and negotiating part a little bit, and you don't want to do it all over slow text and back and forth and that kind of thing, the flea market is probably going to be your jam. Because that's an opportunity. Because again, you've got the seller right there. You're looking at the games. It's like, oh man, if I bought this one and this one, could you give me $15 off? Or you can kind of wheel and deal a little bit more. Again, even at the flea market, some people like that more than others. So if you like that, that's a good opportunity to flex those bartering skills and go get yourself a good deal on a board game.
Yeah, chances are you're already getting a good deal.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's a game you're getting at not full retail price, and
most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
There are still some people who bring their games in and they're awfully proud.
Yeah.
They don't mark them down much. In fact, there are definitely times I have just straight up looked up prices, and it's like, oh, I can get that $10 cheaper on Amazon. You know.
And I've had people that have texted me too, saying, "Hey, I can get this on Amazon for this price," and I'm like, that's true. Or you can get it right now at this price.
Yep. You then go ahead and order it from Amazon and wait a couple days for it to show up at your doorstep. Or you can pay that and have it right now. Yeah. It's up to you.
And that's something I usually do when I'm preparing for the convention and I'm preparing for the swap or the flea market. BGG does it great. Where I can go on BGG, I can look at the price, and BGG will give me, if it's an Amazon price, they'll give me the Amazon price, and they'll give me several online retailers, and I can say, okay, this is what that game's going for, and then I can quickly realize that, oh, what I thought was a super valuable game, turns out it's not. And so you have to price accordingly, but that doesn't mean I get them every time. And sometimes people are like, hey, I could find this cheaper. And sometimes I'm like, okay, let's just do it. Or sometimes I'm like, you know what? The game is more to me at this price. I'm okay to get rid of it. Less than that, I'm going to keep it. So, and that's seller's prerogative, right?
For sure.
So sellers have the right and the ability to say no, and buyers have the right and the ability to ask.
100%.
The key is, this is some great ways to buy, sell, trade games. And this is a great community to do that with. I think the community, by and large, is very honest, very courteous, and very welcoming. Don't be the thorn in our rose bush. Yep.
Be respectful, and others will be respectful back, I think 99% of the time.
Yeah.
So, excellent, Nathan. Well, that I think is going to wrap this episode of the SaltPod SideCast up. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. We do hope you've enjoyed this episode and found it informative and helpful. So please join Meeple Nation on our regular weekly podcast. Otherwise, we'll be back next month with an episode looking forward to SaltCON Summer. I can't wait.
I know, it's already here.
I am looking forward to another convention for sure. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and happy gaming.